And welcome to another edition of Pitt Panther Talk here on Pittsburgh Sports Now. And we're proud, by the way, I'm Mike Vukovcan, joined by the guru, Harry Psaros. And Harry, we're glad that our segment now is getting sponsored by our friends Aaron Buell and his insurance agency. Aaron's a good guy. He's been with us on Pittsburgh Weather Now, good friend of the Sports Now family. And if you have any insurance needs to get a quote on your auto, home, renters, motorcycle, business, life, ATV, boat, whatever, Aaron's your man. He takes care of us. Hopefully, if you're in the need of insurance, get your insurance updated or need some sort of questions, give Aaron and his team a call, 724-443-5610. And he has agencies in Gibsonia, Butler, Warrendale, Allison Park, and Mars. All right, Harry, big day, to say the least, yesterday for Pat Narduzzi's program, adding 4 players, 1 grad transfer, 3 players to the class of 21. Before we get into the 2020 guys or 21 guys, what are your thoughts on them adding another grad transfer lineman? And I guess maybe it caught some people off surprise because I don't know that everyone thought that was necessarily a need. But what's your reading on why they added a offensive tackle?
Let me say this, and I tweeted about this. Anyone who follows me saw this. I think since the class of 2019, and that was when they started, they added Matt Gonzalez and they added Liam Dick. I think we've seen a gradual improvement of offensive line recruits. So I questioned if they actually needed to bring one in. You have either Gabe Hoy or maybe Carson Van Lin that would have looked pretty good at that right tackle position. First, my 2 cents, I think Narduzzi sees this as his most complete team.
Right.
And if you were looking at one position, you potentially could either upgrade or solidify, one of the two. Because I think Gabe's a pretty respectable player. It was right tackle. So the way to look at it is you're building a model, all the pieces are almost there, and you had one incomplete area. So they brought in KJ. Let me say this. I mean, I've interviewed him twice. He sent me film. I was able to look at it. He's battle tested. Well, the first question a lot of fans ask me, which is logical, is this a Stefano Millen type transfer or is this a Nolan Iluzio? And I don't want to disparage Iluzio, but Millen was battle tested, multi-year starter at Kent State, came in, strongest player on the team, made an impact and a positive impact. Iluzio, in all fairness, when they brought him in, I had connections to Michigan, and the first question was, well, he's a backup, right? And I go, no, they want to bring him in at tackle. And 2 of my very good friends I grew up with, and one is involved with the Michigan football program, said to me, he can't move. And we kind of saw that to be true. We almost had Kenny Pickett killed in a few games, in particular the Virginia Tech game.
Right.
I believe this is more of a Stefano Millen type addition. And the reason I say that, he's a very big young man. He's 6'6", nearly 310. He does have a full year of starting under his belt. He opened a lot of eyes. There were a lot of quality P5 programs looking at him. He narrowed it down to 4 solid programs, and he can move. I don't have to say that he has the feet that Iluzio didn't have. This is a big. He has like a mastodon-like presence. He's big, wide, like I said, long, and he can move. So this is a solid addition that will push, if not earn, the starting position at right tackle. So it's hard to say it's a negative. It's clearly a positive for the team. It's going to be a lot of fun to see how he progresses in the system.
It was interesting when I talked to him yesterday after he committed. One thing he made very clear to me was that the coaches, and we'll see what happens, but he said that he didn't come here to be a backup. They weren't. They told him that you're going to have a spot. Now the question is it at left tackle or right tackle? They had Carter Warren there at left tackle last season, and the right tackle's up for grabs. So and he made it clear he wasn't sure. So I think this, assuming there's a camp, those guys better be ready to play because he's going to play somewhere. It's just a matter if it's on the left or the right side. And the other thing is, if he does go into the starting lineup, you're now going to have depth at either tackle position that maybe you didn't have before. If one guy gets hurt, because we know injuries happen, you're going to have somebody on the bench, presumably as your sixth lineman, that can be very versatile. But my second question for you, Harry, about this, and this was something that we were asked a lot, and Alan Saunders wrote about it today. Their addition of another grad transfer lineman, and fourth year in a row that they've added a grad. I don't know what that's a sign of. I don't know that that's necessarily good. Nothing against these kids, but you would assume that when you're bringing in linemen, you want to develop your own linemen and not have to go outside every year. And what's your take on that?
I think for a certain period of time, and again, I tweeted about this, Pitt fans were consistently griping about misses or lack of quality when it came to the offensive line, and they were correct up to a certain point. Pitt seems to be on a very good trajectory with offensive line recruits, and they're building up one hell of an offensive line room. So what you're seeing are stopgaps. It could be argued they didn't have to do it this year. But again, I think Narduzzi sees, eye of the tiger, sees that they could win the ACC. They have a loaded team, and he thought, why not solidify a position instead of bringing in, they have some talented freshmen, but bringing up a freshman that's inexperienced. I think that ends after this year, because if you look at the room and start looking at some of these names, the kids that are filling the room, even last year, you look at the quality they brought in from Branson Taylor to Michael Statham. There's some big athletic linemen that are in that room now. I mentioned Matt Gonzalez. I don't know if I'm even saying his name correctly. I got to talk to his family, but I know that Matt's considered potentially one of the top 5 linemen on the team. Liam Dick, 6'9", huge wingspan. He's impressed the coaching staff. There's a lot of talent there, and I think it stops this year. I think they finally are on a roll, and it showed even when we landed yesterday that they've solidified that spot for years to come.
Let's get into, as you mentioned yesterday, they added 3 juniors, players in the class of 21. And I think the biggest thing, and you tweeted about this, and we're going to have some more on this later, is Pitt is doing a good job of expanding their brand of the football program. And you got into a different state. I think it was kind of surprising that, with considering their history of coaches before with Coach Sims and then Coach Collins and Narduzzi, their history in Michigan, that they weren't able to land anybody, but that ended yesterday. That's an important thing for them to expand the brand and not just have all your recruits coming from Florida, Pennsylvania, and Ohio.
Exactly, and Pitt owes Archie Collins a lot. He's almost like our Lewis and Clark. He rode his boat into Georgia last year and started landing talent. Well, obviously we added Preston Lavant, but the trip from Detroit to Pittsburgh is very manageable in one day. This is an area Pitt should be tapping into. There's a tremendous amount of talent. The last player they landed from Michigan was Avonte Maddox, and this was a significant day for Pitt. Not only did they land one, they landed 2, and they landed them from 2 powerhouse programs up there, MLK and Cass Tech. So, when you're getting quality players from 2 powerhouse programs in Detroit, that can lead to the torch being passed maybe next year, the year after, to more of those players coming down. And again, it's a very doable trip. Parents can make that trip, stay on a Friday, watch their child play on Saturday, and then leave on Sunday and they're home again. So it's an area that they really need to tap into. And I give Archie Collins a lot of credit for not giving up. And they've had a lot of players come to visit and not commit. So Great day for Pitt yesterday.
Three players they got, Harry. I know you're big into looking at their film. Anything stand out or what stands out regarding the three juniors they picked up yesterday?
When you're breaking these guys down, first of all, there were two linebackers I really liked on film. One was Preston Lavant. He reminds me a lot of Cam Wright out of high school. If you watch his film, what I really like about this kid, buildable frame, 6'2", 210 right now, and he can really expand. He's long, he's rangy. So there's a lot of weight to be put on this kid. Great nose for the ball, big hitter. But I talked in the last video I did about checking all the boxes. This guy checks all the boxes. He's a great student. And if you ever talk to any of his coaches, he's a vocal leader. He's a kid that's going to step up and lead. So there's really a lot to like. Plus, he had a solid offer sheet. That's one thing the fans want to hear about. I mean, Nebraska wanted him, WVU, Memphis, Minnesota. So that was a great get. When you look at the two linemen that they landed, again, what I want to emphasize, two linemen that had Enos had 26 to 25, 26 offers. Honorable had nearly 20 offers, strong P5 offers. Terrence, Enos, Cass Tech, big-time program out of the Detroit area, is a pure mauler. They're both a little bit different. 6'5", nearly 320, plays nasty. He's a mauler. He's a great run blocker. Needs to work on his pass blocking, but man, when he gets his hands on you, you're gonna go down. Tenacious, and he blocks to the end of the whistle. And another player that's considered a captain and a leader on that team. What I like about him, he has the same moxie that I see on film, nasty, that Marco Fubar, the previous commitment that we landed from Florida, has. When they get their hands on you, they want to make sure they hurt you. Honorable's a little bit different. He's really close to 6'7". When you look at him, you look at 280, but he looks like a power forward. Long, like a praying mantis, a big, wingspan. At 280, he almost looks thin on film. Very athletic, but the same things apply. Although he has a different build, he's a better pass blocker than run blocker. He needs to bend a little, but they all need to if they're 6'7". They're going to learn that. So, like Enos, has a great motor. There's a lot of things to build on, and it's the typical frame that Borbley really likes. So, again, Enos is more of your big, thicker mauler, where Honorable is your 6'7" kind of towering tackle that just needs to beef up a little bit. But everything is there for both of them to be a success in the program. And again, both were offered by major schools. They had a big offer sheet. So yesterday was a triple win for Pitt. And if you look at the addition of KJ Wilson within 24 hours, it was a big 24 hours for the program.
We mentioned Archie Collins up in Detroit. We should all, as far as the assistants in recruiting up in Michigan, we should also point out, it was very clear. I talked to both guys, Honorable and Enos, yesterday. They both sang the praises too of Coach Borbley and the job that he did in recruiting them. Collins maybe took the lead, but I guess you could maybe say Borbley finished as far as talking to them about how he would be able to develop them. And so hats off to him as far as his presence is starting to be felt a little bit as far as the linemen they're getting. On our last session, Harry, you were right on when you mentioned we closed out the segment talking about where Pitt was going to start going now with their remaining scholarships. And the first thing you mentioned was that they were going to need to add a couple linemen, which they did. Now they're starting to get down the rug cutting time in that they have 12 commitments and they only have 8 or 9 scholarships left. I think 9 is max. 8 is probably where they're looking at, 8 or 9. So they're going to start being selective. We mentioned before in our last segment, which turned out to be very popular as far as the viewers, committable offers, getting on the train, scholarships no longer committable. You're getting down to that time now because I think when Narduzzi and his coaches start looking at their recruiting board, they're going to be looking at specific positions now. It's not just, I think they're going to be zeroing in. Where do you think where could you look for their next positions, maybe not players, but positions for their next commitments?
Sure. And before I answer that, what you said is very pertinent. Think of this again, is you have your board and you're crossing these players off. Half your class is done. So now you can be more laser focused in terms of closing what you want. So you look at the totality of what they signed so far. And by the way, tweeted yesterday, 8 different states represented in this class so far. But I'm going to go back. They're going to be losing some quality players at defensive tackle. I think they need a few defensive tackles. Many of the recruits have openly stated they've been told they want 5 offensive linemen. We could see one addition there. Tight end. Lord forbid we land one, but we need a tight end. They've offered a lot. Hopefully they could close on one from there. I think they want another wideout in the class. They definitely want another running back. And I think if you add another running back in this class, you're going to see more of a bigger back. Rodney Hammond is a smaller back. I think they want to add a thumper. And from that, the rest, you're looking at DN, linebacker, and DB. You're probably going to want another corner. And then to your point, if they flex up to like 9, you could be looking at a DN or a linebacker. I wouldn't shock me if they add another linebacker. So there's still a fair amount to add. The beauty in all this now is they can go back to their board, restack the board, see who they want, focus on they want. You're not as scattershot because you've landed half the class and its quality. From a national perspective, it's getting ranked fairly high. So again, kudos to Narduzzi and staff. They're doing a great job.
Yeah, I'm going to have something on this a little bit later. I talked to another kid this morning that got an offer last night from Ohio. He mentioned to me, I was a little skeptical, to be honest, when another junior they offered over the weekend from Florida. He mentioned that the Pitt coaches said that they wanted to take a 5th lineman, and I was a little skeptical about that. But now today, right before taping, I talked to a kid from Ohio, and I'll have that story later. He said Pitt offered him as an offensive lineman. So it's clear, if you're talking about 8 remaining scholarships, you're talking about at least one offensive lineman. You're talking at least 2 defensive backs, a safety, a cornerback. So now you're up to 3, 5 left. If you get a tight end, that's 4 left. Very, very, and obviously they want to land Elliott Donald. That would be 5 or 6. It's kids that had offers before. I'm not totally sure that they're all still committable. So if you didn't accept the offer by now, you might have the bus might have left.
Correct.
For some kids. The last thing, Harry, is by the way, I'm Mike Vukovcan, joined by Harry Psaros from Pittsburgh Sports Now. The other thing, Harry, is this gets talked a lot, and I think it has some value, maybe not as much as a lot of people make, but I think there is some importance to it, is your recruiting ranking. Pitt now, after the Gitch yesterday, they're up to 21 in both Rivals and 247 Sports. And people look at that, and I think it's a perception thing. If you're in the 40s, the 30s is okay. You start getting the top 20 in recruiting, people look at that, and I think recruits look at that as well. Just talk to, over the years, what's the importance of landing that aside from getting quality players? What's the image value of that?
Well, one, it shows progress in the program. It shows that it's a coveted program by recruits. But 2, and I always equate recruiting to sales. Think about the sales pitch. It's one thing to come in and go, hey, we're an up-and-coming program. It's another to come in and go, you know what, we have a top 20 class right now, and you could be part of it. And that message really resonates with recruits. It's a sellable, tangible item, and now they have that. So I think it's very important. And the other thing I want to mention, again, at times, and I know you deal with this too, we have a fatalistic fan base. And I had a couple fans after yesterday who were able to spin this negative after the day they had and go, well, you know what? They weren't 4 stars. Well, wait a minute. You look at the 2 linemen, they had 20, to Enos's case, 26 offers, major programs, Big Ten, SEC. Yeah, they weren't 4 stars. They were awful close. So Pitt seems to be in that niche where they're getting a lot of these 3-star players. This happened in the last class with a lot of Floridians, but they have 20, 25 offers. It could easily be ranked a 4-star. So even that 20th ranking, 21st is precarious. They could even be bumped up even better. So the key here, again, it's image, it's sales. What can you package and show that recruit? And to come in and go, hey, listen, you could be part now of a top 20 class, even ranked higher than that. Come join us, come join. And it shows momentum that's building. So I think it's very important.
No doubt. And this 21 rank, there's some of the teams behind them. If you look, like Alabama, Auburn are behind them. Obviously, they're going to move up as they get recruits.
Right.
But some of the kids, Pitt is in a good position because, as you mentioned, as the season goes on, some of these kids that are high 3-star players are going to get bumped up to 4 stars. And there's also Pitt still involved with some 4-star kids. And that's the good thing, as you mentioned, about having their class filled up already, is they can zero in on some prospects, some highly rated guys, not worried about filling in. They got their base of their thing. Now they can go for the cherry on the Sunday, I guess, with guys like hopefully Elliot Donald, Naquan Brown, and maybe some other players. So things are looking up, Harry.
Definitely. Narduzzi's heading into this season with his best team. Recruiting appears to be on a roll. These classes are a lot more solid with players that have a number of P5 offers. So if you're a Pitt fan, you should be pretty pleased right now.
All right, my man. I appreciate your time. We will, who knows, maybe we'll get 2 tastes of the guru this week. We'll see what the week brings, but we'll have a lot of coverage. And once again, we appreciate the Aaron Buell Agency for sponsoring our segment of Pitt Panther Talk. And we will be back hopefully by the end of the week. Maybe we'll try to make this a multi-week thing, multi-day thing throughout the week. And but we'll see what happens as far as Pitt and basketball. We need some basketball recruiting to hit here. I think Coach Capel's 2020 is probably done as far as recruiting, unless some other kid decides to transfer and they pick up one of those. But I think his focus is now on all on 21 right here.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's what it looks like to me.
All right, man. Be safe, and we'll talk to you again. And once again, we appreciate you joining all of us for another edition of Pitt Panther Talk here on Pittsburgh Sports Now.
Take care, everybody. Thank you.